Good evening, beloved masters, and blessings upon you on this day. It is that in the illusion, humanity has become so accustomed to only paying attention, honor, to the things that they can touch, taste, feel, smell, hear, see, 5 senses. And anything beyond that has been disregarded or considered something in the realms of the spiritual, which means that it doesn't have any real involvement in daily affairs. And yet, now in these times, the importance is that the things spiritual, the energy of life, is embracing the whole and making what has been broken into pieces a cohesive oneness. And therefore we speak about the connection with the internal world within you, your sacred space, your prayer space, your realm of personal influence are all energies that have their foundation in the inner realms. And the inner realms are not in the least separate from the outer world. It's all one thing. Faith. The Master Book calls it the evidence of things unseen. All about energy. Something that you cannot put your hands on, that visually you cannot see, at least with your physical orbs, that you cannot hear faith with the organs of hearing the physical world. Faith doesn't really have a fragrance. And even though I could probably suggest that the taste of faith would be sweet on your tongue, taste is not necessarily involved in faith. But it is that faith influences all of the sensory affairs. And now, beloved masters, perhaps more than ever before, it is important that you feel that faith influencing everything in your life. Faith and trust and that recognition of a sense of safety and security and peace, because faith is what has been termed in song blessed assurance. It is that feeling, that recognition within self that I am safe. And the logical, practical mind says, what makes you believe you're safe? Prove it. Prove that you are safe. And it is, beloved masters, the proof of the security, the proof of faith is in the living, in the experience in your daily affairs. When you live without faith, you live, one might say, on the edge of hell. Because the energy of mistrust infects every area of your life. Even when things are going well, even when life is working. Without faith, there is worry, there is doubt, there is dread. And faith shores up your essence. The ego mind inspires worry. It encourages dread. It fans the fire of anxiety with guilt and shame and judgment. And as you call faith to be with you, you draw it not from out there somewhere in an unknown future. You call faith from a place in the deepest part of your own being. You may feel faith flicker in your solar plexus like a fire that is attempting to catch. And as you encourage it, as you focus on that flame of faith, it warms you from the inside. It brings a feeling of fulfillment. It brings a level of self-assurance that disturbs the ego. Because the logical, practical mind, being so out-focused in the world, has desired to keep things like self-assurance, confidence, clarity at a distance. Are you sure you're really clear? Are you sure you can trust what you feel? And as we have said many times, there is a difference of about 180 degrees between emotions and feelings. Because emotions are connected into all of the uncertainty and instability that is happening in the world. emotions are responsive to the anger, fear, doubt, and judgment of others, of unstable climate in the world scene. People all over the planet are looking at the United States, and as the ego mind is wont to do, looking out at what the Americans are doing, what they have done, the choices they make, what's happening in their world, and making judgments about what's happening in the United States. But it is, dearly beloved masters, that's just a distraction that they are utilizing to prevent them from really having to consider and what's going on where you are and what is happening within yourself. Because whether it is Iceland or Antarctica, whether it is Russia or Jamaica, it really doesn't matter if it's in a place where the skin is black or a place where the skin is white or brown or red or yellow. It isn't about what they are doing, because faith, dearly beloved masters, really does come from within. And when you seek faith, you draw it up from the inside. Many times I have spoken about the sea that lies within you, an ocean of feeling, the sea of soul. And from that wondrous essence of the energy of the cosmos that is anchored within each and every being on the planet, there is faith as great as that ocean that sustains, that fulfills, that lifts you up, if you will allow it. We're focusing on what's going on in the world and assuming that all of the world is mad except perhaps you and one other person, and you may have some doubt about them. But within, in the deep inner places of self, the energy of allness, founded and funded in love, sustains faith. And Now it is up to humanity to discipline themselves to really live connected to that faith. It's almost as though as you connect with that faith within yourself, the world begins to look different. When you look at someone, look into their face, look into their eyes, looking to see the highest and best of them, you begin to see a different face. Almost as though beyond the masks and facades that people show the world, there is the face of a master. Beautiful, powerful, courageous, serene. And faith sustains your living with that energy so firmly aligned that the face of the master is what people begin to see all of the time. The face of a master. And the logical mind says, oh yes, I want people to see the face of a master. And the thought processes of what must be done, how you must act, the characteristics, the mannerisms, the expressions of a master. And some people may even stand before the mirror and look at themselves and attempt to produce an expression that they believe looks as a master would look. But it's all about energy. The look in the illusion has been so important that people look right. And certainly in each time there has been a look. Through the centuries, the Roman look, the Greek look, in more modern times, the Hollywood look, the in look. But it is, beloved masters, there's an energy. There is an essence that a master carries. You're all masters. But you have cut yourself off from your roots in the illusion. And even when I use that phraseology, you could say that in and of itself is an illusion, because you really were never cut off from your roots. You simply closed a door within you and said, faith is something other people have. Faith is a word. Go to the dictionary, open the book, and read what faith is. But just because you have an intellectual concept of a dictionary definition of faith doesn't mean you'll live by it, because faith does have a feeling, an essence. Subtle but strong. Exciting. And yet sustaining. Filled with the ability to keep moving, not to attain success out there, but the determination, the clarity, the stamina to keep focusing on faith from the inside out, so that you began to live success. And because the game of illusion has been one person attempting to find all of the elements of mastery for themselves, while they throw enough smoke and shadows, while they distort enough truth, so that other people can't find what they have found. And in the illusion, what it has resolved to in these times is hacking and scams, false news, and the question, who do I trust? First, beloved physicians, the healing of trust, of faith, begins in you, with you. And we keep telling this story from different angles, and the ego says, you don't want to listen to that. That's all that the Master Saint Germain talks about. He just says the same thing over and over and over. Well, maybe not exactly the same thing. But the same implication. Different words, yes. A variation on the theme, somewhat. But you don't have to listen again and again, because it's a little bit like a soap opera. If you've heard it once, you've heard it all the time. But it is, beloved masters, every day, in the energy of these times, very much like a seed that has been planted. And perhaps in the beginning, the seed was tossed out and it fell on a stone. And it didn't germinate there. Perhaps it fell on soil, but the soil may have been so sparse, so thin, that the seed had to be very hardy in order to take root. But we keep casting out the seeds, throwing them, and our intention is that they will find fertile soil. So every moment of every day, you're growing, you're changing, you are becoming, in many ways, more spontaneous. The logical, practical mind is rather rigid in order and structure and rules and laws. And you do this, but you do not do that, because this is good and that is bad, and the rigidity of it. As Revelation is pulling away the masks and dropping the facades, people are having difficulty with their spine, their neck, as the rigidity of the old order now requires to literally melt away. And so, faith brings a warmth, as though a fire has been built on the hearth. And it begins to melt the ice-cold rigidity, the formality, the distancing, the separation. The snobbery, which truly, beloved masters, is nothing but a defense mechanism of the ego mind. And faith opens within you a whole new vista. And the seeds that we keep sowing are finding more and more fertile soil in these times than they have in thousands of years. And it isn't necessarily that a lot of people are consciously seeking what we're offering, but they are at least internally contemplating something. Something is missing in my life. And faith begins to turn the soil. Faith nurtures the wisdom of the ages that abides in each and every one. And faith, if you are willing to listen within yourself to that voice. Now, a lot of people claim they hear voices, but they hear them in their head, and very often the voices in the head are destructive voices. Speaking of doing harm or being harmed, speaking of being taken advantage of, or defensive stands, defensive ploys that must be taken to protect me and mine. And the voices of destruction, beloved masters, are the last efforts that the ego mind is making as the old ways are falling. And in some of the most ancient places on the planet, things that have been associated with spiritual affairs for thousands of years are falling apart, being destroyed. History. And people have held on to it as though the physical, visible objects, the temples, the religious structures, the statues, are falling because humanity is being called from the depths of themselves. The sacred temple that abides within you has been there forever. And even though someone could come along and in the life, in the physical form, the spiritual wisdom connected to that inner temple, the seat of the soul, is who you are forever, who you were created to be in the beginning, and that cannot be taken away. And so it is, beloved masters, drawing faith from the inside, where the ground is far more fertile, where the seeds of remembering are now being cast over the soil that exists in the center of all that you are, the energy, the essence of your selfhood. And faith, like an oasis, is a place that is quiet and calm and cool in the heat of all that is going on in the world.